Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Today we have Yakov Smart. He is going to talk to us about joint ventures and collaborations. I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me, Alicia. Great to be here.
All right. So I know that this is going to be a really valuable conversation. We're going to talk about some extremely important strategies and tactics for growing and scaling a business. Before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and your business so the listeners have an idea of who they're going to be hearing from for the next 20 to 30 minutes?
For sure. So I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So I've always wanted to have my own business. Growing up, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I came to the US at a very young age as a baby from the former Soviet Union. And I just had this desire in me to, do my own thing. I don't know why. I just kind of had it in me, it was this innate desire. And so I pursued that. I, got into online business even as a college student, created an ebook, and did some fun stuff there. Then I got into business full time in 2016, teaching entrepreneurs how to leverage LinkedIn for lead generation. That was the key thing back then. And that's evolved. I've been very fortunate, authored some books. I've done a lot of speaking, workshops across the country in different countries, online events. And today, part of my focus when working with entrepreneurs is, like you mentioned, teaching them collaborations, how to create an affiliate program, how to have, other business owners sending them clients, how to leverage joint ventures. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. It's a lot of where my focus is today. And, I personally use what we're talking about to create hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue to fill events, to generate leads, and to, really start from scratch and build a successful business. So I think it's something that, it can apply to any business. It's just slightly different strokes for different folks. And what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of paint, the big picture of it and also get into some specifics as we go.
Okay. This is going to be good. So there are people who understand on a really rudimentary level the value of networking and business relationships. I think a majority of business owners are missing out on the value of creating these type of strategic partnerships. What are you seeing when you're working with clients? I mean, everywhere from, they're coming in, they have a rough idea that they want to incorporate this into their business, to maybe they've had a strategic partner and it was a good thing and they just never built out any systems to actually make that a part of their overall marketing strategy.
Yeah. So a lot of people think that's about who you know, and that's kind of true, but it's not really about who you know, it's about how you collaborate, right? So it's about, instead of connections, it's about collaboration. So most people kind of shoot from the hip. They know that it's good to build relationships. It's kind of business 101. Everyone talks about that. Problem is they don't have a system, like you said. They don't have structure to actually leverage those relationships and turn those into leads, clients, and dollars. Okay. And that's where the big missing piece is. So, we can call it an affiliate program. We can call it joint ventures. We can call it, a partner program. But the key thing that we teach people to do is, make it into a formalized program that you can build out, make it into a client attraction system, right? And that's something that a lot of people miss. That way, when you're building a relationship, or maybe you already have, a lot of people listening probably already have a few of these relationships. They're like, okay, hypothetically, that person could send me business, but they haven't yet. Why is that? Well, the ask hasn't been quite dialed in. They haven't felt compelled to, and there hasn't been, frankly, enough value to that person. So we have to figure out for each business, how do you create enough value so that that person who has the database or who is already working with your ideal clients is game to play ball, they're game to collaborate. And as a result, creating a win-win-win situation where it's a win for you, win for them, win for their clients, their audience. So that's really, really key. And fundamentally at the foundational level, it comes down to committing and making it a program, making it a system, making it a part of your business, not a one-off where maybe, I'll meet someone and do a collaboration, or, maybe they'll send me a referral here. It's about, creating a leverageable system that you can leverage just like you would leverage any other type of system for attracting clients, whether that's paid ads, social media marketing, all that kind of stuff. This is by and large important to have as a system. And that's where it ranges a little bit for every business.
You said so many valuable things in that little chunk of time. I know personally, and I do a lot of networking with other professionals, colleagues. Some of them are in similar professions, others are in complementary professions. It's fascinating to me how you can have conversations with people and still not really get it, not really understand what it is that they do. And when you don't have that clarity, it's impossible to send referrals. So when you're working with your clients on creating that clarity and really focusing in on what is the messaging and what is the value exchange and how can we make this really attractive to that individual so that they're going to easily be able to refer clients to me. I'm just curious, do you see a lot of people struggling with that clarity, the ability to really articulate what it is that they do and how they can support people?
Well, it's definitely a big part of it, right? And that's one step. That's kind of like the grassroots level. Can you articulate what you do in a way that it makes sense for people, right? I mean, that's really important to be able to do. And at the same time, it's important because everyone's busy. Everyone's got other things coming up. To have a clear, we call it a JV power offer, right? Have a clear offer that you can make some. So let's say you're networking with another professional. And I don't like that word networking. Personally, I'm not a big fan of networking. I think it's kind of soul sucking. But let's say you're having a strategic conversation, exploring a collaboration, for sure that they've got clients who you can work with, and maybe vice versa, maybe not. And it doesn't really matter, actually, contrary to popular belief, because if you create enough value, it's not a tit for tat. Oh, they send me a lead, I send them a lead. I mean, that's super like old school BNI. We don't need to do that anymore. I think that the game has changed when you're strategic. So it's not just about articulating what you do and they're like, okay, great, you do this. So let's say you're an attorney, right? Or a financial advisor, you're in a commoditized space. Like there's a million and one people saying the same thing. Right? You can only get so creative with your messaging. Yes, you can have a unique personal story. Yes, you can have a unique personal brand. All that is super, super valuable. The thing is being able to go to someone and say, hey, here's how I think we can collaborate. I'm going to do all the work for you. It's going to be super easy. This is what's going to be in it for your clients. This is what's in it for you. How does that sound? Great. Let's get it on the calendar. Let's, get it done. Right. And that way, having a turnkey process, it goes back to the system, is what's going to save you a lot of time in the long run. And I think the reason a lot of people never really dive into this or get started like they need to is, first of all, they're afraid of hearing no. Right. That's a mindset thing we can talk about. Second thing, though, is they think it's going to be a lot of work. They think it's going to be a lot of work. And it is a lot of work if you're doing one-offs and you don't have a system. Absolutely. But I personally kind of hate repeating myself. I hate doing like repetitive things, and there's no need to, right? And ideally, you're talking with the right person. They've got an audience, they've got a database of clients for you. You've got a structure and how you can collaborate. If they're a good fit for the structure, great. Let's rock and roll. Let's get a date on the calendar. I've got the system for you. Just plug it into your autoresponder. Or if they're not a fit, hey, that's okay too. But now So it's really, really important to have that structure so you can scale this. Okay. And it's really, really important to make it easy and valuable for the other person. If it seems like extra work for them, they're just not going to do it. It's not because they don't want to help you or they don't want to collaborate or they don't like you. It's because they're busy and they've got other things. They don't have the bandwidth to figure out how to collaborate with you.
Okay. So this podcast is all about mindset, right? Of course, we go into different strategies and tactics and all of the how to practical steps to growing your business. But at the real foundation is always about mindset. And you keyed in there on people's fear of rejection. And it does stop a lot of people from doing the things that could help them to up-level their business. So when you're seeing people bumping up against that, how are you helping them to get over that hurdle so that they stop getting in their own way and can actually start to make these connections and create the systems that then help them to grow through collaborations?
Yeah, so we'll talk about a couple things there. One thing is, there's something that's to me is way worse than rejection, right? Believe it or not, right? So worse than getting told no is not going for it or not hearing anything at all. I call it crickets, right? So, not even saying yes to yourself to give it a shot. That's worse. I mean, there is no one that can reject you more than you can reject yourself. It's just not humanly possible. So if you don't go for it, you're saying no to yourself. You're reinforcing unworthiness and all that other shit that people have. So just by going for it, even if you're clumsy, even if you're sloppy, even if people tell you to F off, you're still saying yes to yourself. And through that process, you can, let's say, refine your approach, right? It's just like, with dating. I mean, it's always an easy metaphor, right? If you're not going for it, if you're not, making the ask, then, you got no shot, and you're saying no to yourself, and you're, holding yourself back, right? So that's worse than any kind of no you can get. Okay. First of all. Second piece is, oftentimes, people don't respond. It's because they're busy. They haven't heard from you, right? They haven't actually seen or processed your ask, right? So it's understanding, okay, how do you set yourself up for success? Get the message seen, get them to actually understand the value that you're offering, right? And that's the gap. And listen, if you're putting your best foot forward, and if it's not a fit, that's okay. It's actually something to be grateful for, because they're not wasting your time. You're not wasting theirs, right? I mean, I'd rather vet that out and eliminate that right out of the gate than have an hour-long conversation with someone and waste my time and energy. It's just like that makes me angry. To me, that's more upsetting than someone saying, oh yeah, I don't think it's a fit. Okay, cool, great, move on to the next one, right? The other way to look at it is, it's the $1 million bill metaphor, right? And I don't know where I heard this, but I heard this somewhere, and maybe, imagine that there was such thing as $1 million bill, right? So you have dollar bills. Imagine there was $1 million bill, and imagine, you had unlimited $1 million bills in your pocket, and you went to a party, and you were there to hand out $1 million bills, and everyone who got the $1 million bill would get $1 million, right? And they'd instantly become a millionaire. So you walk up to someone, you're like, hey, I have this, I like your sweater. I want to give you this $1 million bill, want it. And some people would just take it and receive it, like, oh, great, thank you. But a lot of people would look at you like, well, what's the catch? Like, what do you want from me? Like, oh no, I've just got a lot of these. I want to give some value. I'm happy to give these away. It makes me happy to change lives. Makes you happy to receive it. And I know you're gonna be able to do a lot of good with it too. And if they still insist on saying, no, I can't accept that, that says more about them than it does about you. So if you're coming from that place of giving, then rejection doesn't really exist. Now, that being said, yes, it can still suck sometimes. It can still it's like a quick, sting, or just because we're wired for so long to, for so many thousands of years to not want to be rejected. But at the same time, hey, as long as you're on the right trajectory, it's like quick, okay, bounce back. Okay, I did, maybe that person wasn't interested, it wasn't a good fit. Okay, well, there's other people too. You never run out of outs. And the last thing that I'll say too, around that, there's a great movie, Coach Carter, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen, came out a while ago. It's like a movie about basketball. And there's a great scene, and it sounds a little ruthless, so I want to make sure that I'm framing it the right way here. But there's a great scene where the new coach comes in, the team sucks, they haven't been doing well, they haven't been winning a lot. He comes in, and on day one, he sets some new boundaries, some new rules, and two of the guys just walk out. They complain, they walk out, they're like, screw you, we're not in. And as the guy's walking out, one of the other players tells the coach, we just lost two of our leading scorers from last season. And without missing a beat, you know what he says? He's like, well, I guess we're going to have new leading scorers this year, huh? And boom, that's the attitude, right? There's so much opportunity. Dwelling on one specific rejection, if we call it, just makes no sense.
I love that. And there's so many segues that we could go off on that, because it's true. If it's not the right fit, good riddance, right? There are people who are going to be the right fit. Now, for someone who has listened this far and they're intrigued, but they don't really understand how this can translate into their business, like what the value potential could be. Can you talk a little bit about that? So why do people even bother to form these strategic partnerships? What's the value?
Yeah. So, in saying strategic partnerships, in some cases, that's the fit. For some people, it's building out an affiliate program, right? So, for example, I have one client, and they're still kind of in the early stages, but they do events for business owners, right? And their big thing when you do events, part of it is filling events and getting more members, right? So, it's not that they necessarily wake up in the morning saying, hey, I want to go and create an affiliate program or go and create these strategic partnerships. Just like people usually don't wake up in the morning saying, hey, I want to go run a Facebook ad, or, I want to do video marketing. Some people do, and that's great if you do. At the same time, they know, the goal or the outcome or the thing that's going to grow the business is going to be more members. Okay. For events, it's like, getting people in the room, right? For your business, it could be getting more appointments on your calendar with qualified prospects, right? Because that leads to more cash flow, leads to more money, more revenue, lifestyle, you can scale, you can grow, all those other things. So it's really about that more so than it is, the specific vehicle, right? So with that being said, I would say that this is probably for most businesses, the lowest hanging fruit when you're doing it right. The best way to grow your revenue, to increase your cash flow, to sign more of the high paying clients that you're looking for. This is the way to do it, without, messing around with all these crazy online funnels and all this complicated stuff, because you create the system. And now it's just about finding people who can send you more clients and giving them an easy way to do that. And again, everyone wins. So, for anyone who's ever struggled with generating high quality leads, or with, having enough cash flow, or even attracting their ideal clients beyond word of mouth referrals, this is a way to move past that. Yes, it does take a little bit of dedication. It does take a little bit of effort to figure out, maybe it does take going outside your comfort zone. And that's okay, because on the other side of that, you can have a really powerful system for growing your revenue, attracting more clients, increasing your profits, getting the lifestyle that you want. And it's available in any business. I can't think of a type of business where leveraging something like this wouldn't lead to those kind of results.
There are so many questions that I'd love to ask you, and I know we just simply do not have the time for all of them. So I'm going to segue, and I want to talk to you as the business owner about your own mindset journey. And is there anything that you are willing to share with us about something with your own mindset that had to shift in order to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so there's so many things. I want to talk about something nuanced, actually. So, my whole thing, and like a lot of mindset things, it's still a work in progress very much, right? We're still evolving, growing, expanding into higher levels of this, would say. So my whole thing that I realized pretty recently kind of came full circle. I think we live in a world, especially in the world of business and, personal development, spirituality, those worlds, where, there's a lot of emphasis on peak performance, okay, being productive, performing at a high level, executing, and all those things are great and really valuable and, kind of addicting. And, I love all those things. At the same time, I started saying to myself, how can I set things up to be easier for myself, right? Where, even if I have an off day, or I'm not at my peak performance, I'm still getting great results, right? So, I called it peak setup, where, how do you set yourself up for success, right? And it could be, some practical examples could be, the market that you select, right, to work with, right? You could have the same offer, same message, be the same person, have the same business, and do so much better with far less resources invested in one specific market than, do it in a market that's much more commoditized, where there's 15 other guys, saying the same thing. So it's thinking about, okay, peak setup, how do you set things up for success, right? There's a term in, you come from the world of hypnosis, NLP, pre-framing, right? So, setting it up, making sure that there's set boundaries, set expectations. It's a lot easier to set those up front out of the gate and, communicate that clearly than to be in the situation and have to deal with it and make, those adjustments. It takes a lot more effort. So, bringing, for me, the mindset shift is inviting in more ease through that peak setup, setting myself up in a way where, winning is kind of inevitable, and rigging the game as much as humanly possible, so that becomes easier and easier, rather than, taking pride in, I'm such a great marketer, or, I performed so well, or I crushed and I did that, that still, there's room to do that and still great. At the same time, even with a mediocre, let's call it performance, or even without really even trying, still getting outstanding results. That's where systems come in. That's where setting it up comes in. It's just a different game. It's a easier way to do things. And I think anyone who's getting high level results, whatever, in any area of life, has that peak setup dialed in. I think the people that are, kind of winging it, or, shooting from the hip without having that setup, or without at least considering that setup, results may vary, consistency may vary.
No, it's so true. And I love what you're saying here. This is something that I've worked with my clients on for years. We've got to stop overcomplicating things. There's always a way for us to set ourselves up to win based on the way that we work the best, we function the best, and creating more ease. Somewhere our society has gotten this mixed up idea that overcomplicating things is somehow virtuous. The more complex it is, the harder you work, the more time that you spend. And when you look at really successful individuals, they're not doing that. They're finding ways to systematize. They're finding ways to optimize. They're finding ways to, in many cases, be more efficient with less effort and enjoy life more. And for a lot of us that are serial entrepreneurs, right? You mentioned it at the beginning of the interview. You've always felt that desire to be an entrepreneur. And I'm the same way. Most of my clients are as well. And we thrive on growing our business. We love it. For me, my hobby is in many cases personal development. So, you could say, well, that's your business, but that's what I'm doing in my free time. Right. So we love what we do, but we still have to have our mindset right around thriving in our business and not driving ourselves into the ground with this it's almost like an ego thing, right? You mentioned, all of the accomplishments, all of the accolades. And it can be really tempting to think that the more that you achieve, the more that you accomplish, the better you're going to feel. But in most cases, that's not the case. And I love what you're talking about here, and just kind of dialing in on your own sort of peak performance mindset. So now, how can our listeners get in contact with you? So you're sharing some amazing stuff. I'm sure that there are probably a few takeaways that people can implement right now, but a lot of people, they don't want to figure it out. Right? They want to go to the expert. They want someone who can help them dial those things in and create those systems and extract the right words, the right approach. So how can our listeners get in contact with you?
Yeah, a couple of ways to do it. And I appreciate you saying that, by the way, about that mindset shift, because it's true. There is no gold star for working harder. I want to be lazier. I want to do less. I want to having more results from doing less effort, right? Maximizing everything. So those are really kind of important things to emphasize and think about. And then people can reach out in a couple of ways, and they can find me on LinkedIn, Yakov Smart. Reach out, say that you heard me on the show. We can continue the conversation, especially if you're interested in actually implementing this in your business. And then if they go to connectandprofit.co, not .com, .co/training, they can go attend a masterclass. It's pretty short. It's like 30 minutes. It'll kind of give them an overview of the system. And then from there, they're going to be able to reach out and how to continue the conversation that way as well.
Awesome. This has been a great conversation, loaded with value. I really hope that at least a couple people listening have had a light bulb moment and thought to themselves, wow, I could leverage other people's audiences. I could leverage other people's client base. I could start to leverage other professionals who are connected with my ideal clients as a way to help grow my business. It's such a smart business decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to thank you again. I really appreciate your time, and I encourage everyone to get in contact with you. And for all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. So many great interviews, great content. Make sure you subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you in the next episode.